In my M1 Finance dividend growth portfolio, one of my largest positions and coincidentally one of my best performers is Visa. Visa is an absolutely incredible company, and every reason in this video I'm going to show why they're going to dominate. Usually I like to go over things like balance sheets, revenue numbers, and we'll take a look at that really quickly. But what I want to talk about is every reason why Visa is set to dominate over the next decade. There's almost no competitors in their market. They're investing in almost every single space that you can imagine that you want to be in, and almost everything that can go right for this company is going right. They have a great CEO. They just acquired 2 different businesses in the last month. They acquired 2 businesses in the last month in the hundreds of millions or the billions of dollars, and we'll go over all that in this video. If you didn't get signed up with M1 Finance, they're having a $50 promotion, so get signed up with that if you're wanting to buy some Visa stock or anything else in general. But first, let's take a look at a little bit of the history of Visa and talk about their business before we go over all the big acquisitions that they made in the last month. Also, we'll be talking more about the companies that they've acquired over the last couple of years and how this transitioned to them being more of a dominant business. So go ahead and take a look with me at these revenue numbers. You can see that going back to 2016, you can see that revenue was about 15 billion and grew all the way to 21 billion in 2020. Now remember that 2020 was one of the worst years for Visa and pretty much any other business out there. This is a time for Visa when revenue is shrinking, profitability is shrinking, and you can even see from these numbers that they still grew massively over the last several years. Now, if you look at their revenue, it grew from 15 billion up to 21 billion, and then their earnings per share grew as well from $2.49 up to $4.90, about a double up over the last 5 years in profitability. Now, the number that I wanted to talk about was profitability. You see that profitability almost doubled in the course of 5 years. Now, why did that happen, and what is causing Visa to just surge up in profitability? Well, go ahead and take a look at this. This is the photo that I have off of Instagram. This is actually a great guy that I follow. His name's Shadow Investing. So if you don't follow him, go ahead and check him out on Instagram. Now, what this talks about is profit margins. Now, this shows in this photo many different businesses, and you can see the profit margins behind these companies. And what is at the very top? As of the time that he made this photo, this has a profit margin of 48% for Visa. Now, this number moves around. It's actually increased over time as Visa has become more profitable. But you can see the level of profitability for Visa is massive. You can see that the profit margin is almost 50%. Now, if you don't know what profit margins are, they're a little bit different from gross margins. They take into account every single expense that you could possibly imagine. Anything that involves running the business, from payroll to expenses for running the businesses, anything that you can imagine that costs Visa to make $1 in revenue, almost 50 cents turns back into profit. So if they make $1 billion in revenue, about 500 million, about half of that is going to turn into cold hard cash on bottom line profit. That is massive for Visa. And now you may be wondering, what is Visa doing with all of that profit? Well, go ahead and take a look at this photo right here. This is a snapshot from the recent earnings report that they came out with, and it talks about the recent numbers that they came out with that quarter. This was January of this year, so this was about 6 months ago from the time this video is coming out. And it says, in addition, the company's board approved an $8 billion share buyback program, totaling funds available for stock repurchases to over $11 billion. This company buys back billions of dollars in stock, not every year or not every decade, but every single quarter. It will buy $2, $3, $4 billion back worth of stock. And right now, as of 6 months ago, it has $11 billion ready to buy back more of its own stock. I believe last time I checked, other than Apple, I believe that Visa does more share buybacks than any other company on earth, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that, but I believe last time I checked, other than Apple, they do more share buybacks than any other company on planet Earth. Okay, but now we talked a little bit about profitability and why Visa is so great, and they've had some great numbers over the last couple of years. But I want to go really quickly over the acquisitions that they just made and also the ones that they made over the last several years. And now I'm going to get into the meat of this video, the meat and potatoes, and talk about why Visa is going to dominate, because they've had some great numbers in the past, but as an investor, we care about what's happening in the future, okay? So we're going to talk about why Visa is going to dominate. And we're going to go ahead and start out with this piece of news that was just announced a couple of days ago. Visa is in talks to acquire Currency Cloud in a deal valued at $960 million. They're about to spend about $1 billion to buy out Currency Cloud. Now what I'm going to go ahead and show here on the screen is Currency Cloud's website. It titles "Transactions Do Not Need a Passport." And basically what this company is, if you're not familiar, they are a transaction processing company much like that of Visa, mainly focused on foreign transactions. By the way, in case you didn't know, some of Visa's most profitable transactions are those that are cross-border, that are international transactions, and I think that's why they're targeting this. And so Visa is going to acquire all the revenue from that company, all the profits from that company, and all the technology from that company. But that's not it. Visa didn't just stop there. They didn't just buy Currency Cloud. About a month ago, they also acquired Tink for a little bit over $2 billion. Now, Tink is a leading fintech startup in Europe, and what it does is that it offers a single API so that customers can connect to bank accounts from their own apps and services. Now, this is Tink's website, and on the main page it says "Build the Future of Financial Services" is on the main page of Tink's website. Now, it shows many different banks and fintechs that they partner with, including some big names such as PayPal and American Express. Now, this is just once again another business that they acquired, and I'm going to go really quickly name some other ones that they've acquired over the last couple of years. Back in late December of 2016, they also acquired Cardinal Commerce, which is an industry leader in e-commerce payment authentication. Basically much like Plaid, which they tried to acquire just a couple years ago. They basically authenticate transactions. Once again, great technology for Visa. But it doesn't stop there. In October of 2020, Visa acquired Yellow Pepper, a fintech pioneer with proprietary technology and partnerships supporting leading financial institutions and startups in Latin America and the Caribbean. Another great technology company for Visa to acquire. And that acquisition was about a year ago, less than a year ago actually. It was in October of 2020, and going back less than 2 years ago, going back to September of 2019, they also announced that they will be acquiring Verify, a leader in technology solutions that reduces chargeback. The acquisition of Verify strengthened Visa's role of facilitating trust and transparency across the buying experience by extending its dispute resolution capabilities to support a broad range of payments, brands, and partners across the ecosystem. These are 5 different transactions that we saw Visa made, 5 different acquisitions that it made just in the last 5 years or so. You can see that this company across the board is acquiring businesses over and over and over. Across the board, it does not stop. Now, as they get more profitable and as they continue to grow their business at quite a massive scale, in my opinion, it's reasons like this that Morningstar gives Visa a wide economic moat rating according to their analysis, and this is what they have to say right here. Payment networks such as Visa benefit unsurprisingly from a network effect. The more consumers that are plugged into a payment network, the more attractive that payment network becomes for merchants, which in turn makes the network more convenient for consumers and so on. This explains why a handful of networks have come to dominate electric payments, and at this point, Visa has reached essentially universal acceptance in most developed markets. While the network effect is the initial primary driver of economic moats in this industry, the highly scalable nature of payment processing leads to sizable cost advantages for payment networks, which in turn further cements their competitive positions. For the dominant payment networks with global footprints such as Visa, the network effect and resulting cost advantage is strong enough to lead to a wide moat in our view. This just furthermore supplements my opinion on why Visa is going to continue to dominate. They have a wide economic moat and that are taking advantage of its network effect. As more people use it, more people trust their system, and more environments and more markets are wanting to use their products going forward. Now, of all the numbers that we can talk about with Visa, I've mentioned this many times on the channel, 85% of the world's financial transactions are still done in cash, which is crazy to think about, right? I mean, maybe this just seems crazy for me because I use credit cards for pretty much everything, Visa credit cards of course, and it just seems a little bit odd to me that the number is still that high because that's a global number. It's not just the United States, but still, it's crazy to think about how much opportunity still lies ahead for Visa. And something that I want to show here on the screen is that this shows an example of how my generation, the younger generation of 20s, 30s, and even teenagers moving forward will use credit cards and mobile payments more than ever before compared to past generations. The baby boomers, the Gen Xers, they don't use credit cards and especially not mobile payments the way that millennials and Gen Zs do. This shows a photo showing the increase in credit card and debit cards versus the decrease in cash. Over on the right here, it shows the statistics for Gen Z, and it shows the decrease in cash, okay? On average, Gen Z uses cash 10% less from 2017 to 2018, and in terms of credit cards, they increased that usage up 12%. So not only did they decrease their cash spending, but they increased their credit card spending by significantly more than that of the cash spending. And that's for the Gen Z generation as a whole. And this was numbers from 2017 to 2018. And I'm sure these numbers now look even better than what they did back in 2018. Now, once again, this also shows the statistics behind some Gen Z. And go ahead and take a look at this picture right here. And this shows what generation is most likely to use in-person banking versus the number of transactions that they use on online banking and app purchases. You can see that Gen Z takes the cake by far. They use more in-app purchases and online transactions, way more than past generations, once again just supplementing what we were already talking about. Now, this whole video was about the reasons why Visa will dominate. And so I wanted to give two big examples because I hear this all the time. Because you hear about companies that are going to take over the markets, that are going to enter over and take over other big competitors. Like in the same way that Amazon took over Sears and pretty much really any other brick and retail mortar store. I think that it is important to talk about the competitors for Visa. Because really, other than MasterCard, they don't really have any. And I'm going to show exactly why. So we're on Amazon's website here, and a lot of people always talk about how Amazon's taking over everybody, taking over all businesses, right? And for Visa, this couldn't be further from the truth. For Visa, they're actually benefiting from Amazon. Let's say you go on Amazon here and let's just type in, say, Mountain Dew. Let's say you want to buy some Mountain Dew. Maybe you want to ship some to me because you know how much I love it. Well, how are you going to buy that Mountain Dew? You have a couple different options. Let's say you want to buy it directly from your bank. Maybe you want to buy it from your debit card. Maybe you want to buy it from your credit card. Well, guess who probably owns that debit card or that credit card? You're looking at it, Visa. Maybe you want to pay for Amazon Prime services. Well, you can once again do that through Visa. So this is not really hurting Visa. Amazon is no competitor to Visa whatsoever. And guess what? Speaking of which, if you want to get an Amazon credit card, who's once again owning that credit card? You're looking at it. See the bottom right part of that card right there? It says Visa. Visa owns that credit card. They're not competitors of Amazon one bit. And let's look at another quote competitor of Visa that I've seen thrown around all the time. One of the main competitors that I see people compare to Visa is Square. Square is a very fast, non-banking fintech company, much like a Visa, but actually Visa and Square, they don't compete. They actually have a little bit of synergy between each other. And I think this article describes it perfectly. So go ahead and take a look at this on the screen. It says that investors might be wondering if Square is coming after Visa. Even though Square serves as a transaction processor, it doesn't compete with Visa. Each company has its role in the transaction processing chain, which involves several entities to process, approve, and finalize a transaction. When you're using something like a Square, that doesn't compete with Visa. They actually kind of go together. And I want to go ahead and show something else in case you're worried about someone like a Square, for example, taking over Visa. This article is titled Visa's Stake in Square, What You Need to Know. Without reading through all the sentences and paragraphs of this article, you will go along and read it, and if you want to read it yourself, you can go ahead and pause it or find it online. But basically what this shows is that as of the time that this company went public, back a couple of years ago, Square had 9.99% of its business, so about 10% of its business, sold to Visa. So I'm not really all that sure how much of the business that Visa still owns, but as of a couple years ago, they actually owned about 1/10 of Square's business, which is now a several $100 billion business, actually getting up kind of close up there to Visa actually. But the point is, you can see that across the board, Visa tends to acquire other businesses that have great fintech opportunities, great technologies, great revenue growth opportunities, and then if they find somebody that might be a competitor like a Square, well, they already have an ownership stake in them, so they already control part of the company and receive a bunch of the profits. But you can see that other competitors as well, including Square and Amazon, don't really compete with Visa, they actually help Visa. Visa really only has one main competitor, and that's MasterCard. And if you're going to start a business to compete with a lot of big banking solutions out there, you're going to use one of the two. You're going to use Visa or you're going to use MasterCard, and pretty much everyone else out there is pretty much irrelevant. And so this is why I think that Visa is going to continue to dominate, continue to be massively profitable, and I think that it will continue to be one of the largest positions in my portfolio. Not only is it one of the largest positions that I own in my dividend growth portfolio within One Finance, but Visa has also been one of my best performers as well, and I believe that it's going to continue over the next 5-10 years. And so I'm going to take advantage of the dividend growth opportunities, the share buybacks, and overall just success of the business for owning Visa stock. And this is why I think Visa stock is going to continue to be an incredible investment. It's not financial advice, do your own research, but this is why I think Visa is going to dominate. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't got it checked out already, like I said, $50 for getting signed up with One Finance, as well as free stocks with Webull, Robinhood, and all that stuff down below in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.